So here at Kevan Ware Fresh Air Network Podcast Studio. As you know, I document some of my experiences here in Atlanta with some of the entrepreneurs I come in contact with, and today is no different. We want to start off with thanking you for being here, and at the same time, understand that entrepreneurship is the way to go, and you need a village.
Yes,
Definitely the village.
for sure.
To be an entrepreneur. So without further ado, we're going to get back into it. And Mr. Moore.
That's right. That's right.
All right, let's get into it, man. So let's talk about you.
Okay.
You can state your name, your business,
Okay.
some of the services that you provide, and then we can go from there.
Okay. Sounds good. So I'm looking at this camera.
Yeah.
So my name is Kevan Ware. They also call me JV. I happen to be an author of this wonderful book called Becoming a Son, where I talk about how do you mature in your faith from being a babe in Christ to a son of God. I also have provided a study guide to go along with that, chapter by chapter. And then also you can figure out, or let me say, you can get videos to go with each one of these chapters if you are more of a visual learner. And also we got it on Audible, so you can get all of that. Go ahead.
Before we get into that, let's talk about who you are.
Okay.
Like, where you from?
Okay.
Where you're at right now? What makes you tick? Some of the energy or the experiences that you went through in the past. So can you do that?
I'm originally from Virginia. I moved down to Georgia when I was like 5.
Okay.
And I've been here pretty much ever since then. I did go to college at Winston-Salem State University in North Carolina. I got my degree in business administration.
Got it.
2 years after getting my degree in business administration, I ended up in a property accountant position. I did that for about 4.5 years, and then I took a leap of faith, started my own business in a short-term rental space. Got some coaching, got some training, got a lot of financial literacy. But unfortunately, it was not as successful as I wanted. So I ended up pivoting. And as I was building that business, I pretty much was seeking the Lord, like, man, what's next? Because it really doesn't seem like this is going how I planned. And eventually the Lord was saying, look, I need you to go out here and gather my men. And then that led to me being over the men's ministry where I currently worship at. And then after maybe 6 months or so of doing that, the Lord was highlighting that he wanted me to write a book that was catered to men specifically. And that's how we got to me becoming an author.
Now, this is your first or second book? I know
This is my first book. This is my very first book.
Okay, all right. You got something coming up, right?
No, I don't. Right now, I'm still building more material to support this specific book.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, before I start writing the second
So
book.
let me pivot again. Now, you self-published, or how does that work?
Yes. So at the church that I worship at, there is
You can give me a shout out if you like.
Elder Tiffany Buckner. She is a phenomenal author. She has wrote like over 60 plus books.
Wow.
And
Shout out to Tiffany.
She has pretty much a one-stop shop.
Okay.
So I remember when somebody was telling me, like, man, you should check her out. You should check her out. So I checked her out, and she ended up having a program where you can write your book in 5 weeks for $99.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, shout out to Tiffany. And I'm saying that because I know we had a conversation over the phone, and I distinctly remember that you being self-published to a certain degree. And I'm sharing that with them because that's something that sometimes when people think about writing a book, they think it's so far-fetched, or they don't know all the pieces or even the first step. So not to say that the people gotta call you, but it is good to talk to somebody who has done it, or even talking to you so they can get you in touch. You can get them in touch with Tiffany.
I can get them in touch with Tiffany.
Yeah, but I think that's very important because now that you know how to do it, there's no stopping you from the second, the third, fourth, fifth. How long has your book been out? Let's talk about that.
Almost a full year.
Okay.
In July 28th, it'll be a full year.
And how can people access it?
They can get it on anywhere books are sold. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. Or if you really want to support me, you can go to my personal website, allthingsjv.com, and you can get you a copy of this. You can also sign up to where you can get it signed. I'll sign and write you a message and all of that.
Can you spell it out for folks? Your website?
Oh,
in that way.
www.all, which is allthingsjv.com.
V as in Victor, correct?
V as in Victor. I'm
Not
sorry.
V.
Thank you for that.
Okay. Let's pivot and say, married, kids? What's
Single. I'm
Okay.
a single, ready to mingle.
All right. There you go, ladies.
We out here looking, but you gotta be a woman of God.
Okay, there you go. That's the prerequisite. The reason why I ask that is because so many times we entrepreneurs and we be on our own paths, doing our own thing.
That's true.
And so many times we think that we don't need anybody, or we don't necessarily want anybody to interfere with what our flow is. At the same time, if you find, or once you find the right one,
come on,
then it helps you exponentially.
That's it. No, I'm about to throw scripture out there. He who findeth a wife, findeth a good thing, and attains favor.
Yep.
So just adding on to what you said, just confirming what you said. When you can find that helpmate, in a sense, you know, that can begin to accelerate even the business, even the dream, even the vision.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the market that you address. And it's a market that I believe is near and dear to you and myself.
Yeah.
And it's a market that is underserviced so much. So let's talk about that. Your market that you are sought after, or you've been working with, is whom?
It is primarily our brothers. It's primarily our men around the ages of 24 to probably 44. So anywhere around there. Not capping it there, but those are the people that I feel like once they read this or they get a part of my mentoring program, they'll be able to put this to work immediately. And I care so near and dear about them because I got tired of seeing us wanting to be great, having all these visions and these dreams, but just not having the education, just not having anybody there to help train them, coach them, walk them through. Because life is hard. Life is hard as a man by itself. Then just being a black man in America, you know, there's not as many opportunities available. And even some of those opportunities that could be available to us, we don't have the knowledge, we don't have the resources, and it just hasn't been brought into us so we can step into it and exercise it. And I meet so many guys who end up going to the streets or doing all of this things that it really isn't advancing their life or the community at large because they just don't have those examples.
So how have your market received you, meaning the 24 to 44 age group? Men? And I'm asking that because any man that's listening or any young man that's listening, sometimes we're a little proud, too proud to ask or think that we need assistance or help or just somebody to talk to. So let's speak to how the young men have been receiving the toolage and or book and just face-to-face engagement. I'm sure that's a big component of it as well.
That is key. That is key. You know, I believe that we should all lead by example. That should be your greatest witness in a sense. So me, I don't know if I shared before, but I'm over the men's ministry at my local church. Okay. And so me being in that position, obviously I'm a little more visible. So you see me. So I have to make sure what I'm saying and what I'm doing is lining up. Right. So as I began to write this book and I began to launch this book, many people came to support, you know, just to support. But the people who actually dived in, the people who actually read and consumed what's in this book have came back and said, thank you. Like, I really needed this. Like, just.
Let's talk about that. The example you gave me on the phone. I spoke to you about the gentleman who, I think his wife brought the book for him. And then brought it back to him.
So,
and then he kind of snowballed.
Yeah, he did.
And championed you to
come
do some
on.
other stuff.
That was like a destiny moment in a sense.
So let's explain that, because the short version, but
Yeah,
the
yeah,
point
yeah,
is
yeah.
that his
So-
wife.
Yeah, so
please.
I had the book signing on a Sunday, and his wife came to the church. He happened to just be not feeling well that day, but she doesn't even attend the church anymore. This is how random this was.
Okay.
And she was just like, "Oh yeah, your book is coming out. Yeah, my husband, he said he wanted to get it. I remember you talking about." So she went ahead and she purchased the book. I signed it and everything, wrote her a message in it, all that good stuff. Fast forward, maybe like 3-4 months later. We're having like a night of prayer for the men, and he comes, and mind you, he stays maybe like an hour away, and he's like, "JV,
Yeah, made a
what
valiant
are you
effort.
doing with that book?" And I'm just like, "Well, I'm getting ready to do the study guide and all this type of stuff." He was like, "Yeah, that's good, but like, what you doing with the book?" And I was like, "Well, he was like, "Cause look, man, I read it, and whatever you doing, like, I want to support, I want to be with you, I want to help you." And I was like, "Well, let's do lunch." So we ended up doing lunch, and he tells me the Lord was telling him something about the word becoming. Now, the name of my book is Becoming a Son. And he said he kept hearing becoming for like 2 years, and he didn't know what that meant. But eventually, he said, when I read your book, it became the blueprint, becoming a son. So he says, if anything, he said, for the past 2 years, the Lord has been really egging and pushing him on to start a podcast. And he's like, when I read your book, now I have the blueprint.
Nice.
So he reached out to me, and that's in the workings right now of potentially starting a podcast, centered around this book, Becoming a Son, because it touches so many areas in the growth and the development of a man, but in a practical way.
Message.
In a practical way.
Now, the reason why I brought that up is that number one is that I wanted to highlight that the women can purchase the book for their
Listen,
significant other.
Yes.
So many times they want to tell men what to do, but not necessarily empower them.
That's good.
Or sometimes only a man could actually reach a man
Yeah.
in certain aspects. Not to say that women
Yeah.
are not
For
valuable.
sure.
It's just, a man
Yeah.
raises another man. The other part is that making sure that women are supporting the men or the young men or your child or
Yeah.
your nephew
For
or
sure.
anything like that. So the book is not just it's for men, but also women can actually purchase
definitely.
it to give it to their significant others, their kids,
Yeah,
males.
definitely,
Even
definitely.
talking about it and being in school and having it where some of the teachers can have breakout moments and talk to the kids, stuff like that. And
Yeah.
so many times we leave it up to the male to do everything and to find a way because they're supposed to be so strong and so resilient.
No, see, we need
and that's not
assistance and
necessarily the
help
case.
like everybody else. We're human.
Yes, sir.
We're flawed. We still figuring a lot of stuff out ourselves.
Yes, sir. Say
And
it again.
so we definitely need support, just like how you started this. In our entrepreneurship, we need community,
Yes, sir.
and that's in life in general. That's in life in general.
Let me talk about this. So you have evolved to life coaching.
Yes.
So I'm saying that because the gentleman who asked you to come and then he said he wanted to sit down with you, that somewhat springboard the consulting
It
part.
did.
The
It
one-on-ones and stuff like that.
So,
Let's speak to that.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. So at the beginning of, I had met with him last year, but at the beginning of 2024, it was an idea. I kept hearing people say, "Man, you good at like just coaching people. Like you personal. Like a lot of the stuff that you're sharing. If I can just have somebody hold me accountable, if I can just," and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to open it up for the coaching. And I started doing the coaching with some of the guys, and they're just like, "Man, JV, like, I'm seeing like results quicker than, what I would have before." And a lot of it is sometimes it's just one thing, just holding people accountable and letting them be able to flush out their goals and their plans. See, there's so much stuff out here where I feel like we're not focusing on us because we're so busy building other people's temples or other people's businesses in a sense. But, you know, my training, my coaching is about you becoming the best version of you. It's literally everything is becoming a son. I'm the becoming coach. So as I'm training, as I'm coaching, as I'm sharing with them, okay, just practical things you can do that's going to have you winning in these other areas. They're seeing a fast result because now they have somebody holding them accountable. Now they have something that's tangible. They can touch, they can see, they can feel. And now they're getting those results that they want. But it happens when you consistently do it over and over and over again to where now it's not just something that you do like a diet or random.
You form the habit.
But it becomes a lifestyle. It becomes a lifestyle. There's one quote in my book where I talk about establishing those habits. And it says, you know, people don't decide their destinies. They decide their habits, and their habits decide their destiny.
Nice.
And I feel like that is so important.
Yeah, it's the cause and effect.
Exactly. Exactly. So all of this stuff is just building. They're just building on top of each other. And that's why I'm saying, like, for men, we need stuff that's just practical. We need stuff that's rational and logical that we can apply today.
Yeah. Let's talk briefly about the mental capacity of the human being and or the male, and how intricate and or important it is to have dominion over your thoughts.
Oh, that's
Can you speak to what you have gathered by speaking to some of these younger men and what? Because the accountability part is so important.
It is.
Because you can tell yourself anything, but if somebody's that you respect is on board with you, you have a little bit more to get it done.
That's true.
So, and accountability is really you having dominion over your thoughts, creating your thoughts, creating what you want to do, and then executing it. And then as you execute it, you have people that are supporting you and or having accountability, which sometimes that's lost after you get out of high school or college or your parents or somebody's not around.
That's so
can
true.
you speak to the mental empathy or apathy?
Yeah. So what I've observed as I have been coaching and being over this men's ministry and talking to just a lot of brothers, like, if I'll be honest, a lot of us have just checked out mentally and emotionally, especially when you start carrying that load of being a husband and being a father. Like, you get burned out. And what I've learned, even in the church, I mean, you can fire shots at me or whatever, but what I've learned is that for men, a lot of time we just have to perform. And we need an outlet where we can just be. You know, this is becoming, not doing. You know, we are human beings, not human doings. So, but we have to learn. We have to unlearn so that we're able to learn how to just be and be present. But there's not a lot of outlets where men can just decompress. There's not a lot of outlets where we can just come and have these conversations just to get it out. Because if you have so many voices competing in your mind, everybody wants you to do this, and you looking at social media, you got all of this stuff going on mentally that's feeding into your brain and your thinking, and now you don't have nowhere to flush it out. So then a lot of times it turns into that rage and that anger where they're frustrated. So even when I do like my coaching calls, I always make sure that, okay, how are you handling all of this? More than likely you need to start exercising to release some of this tension.
Absolutely.
Go outside, maybe take a walk, just get in the sun, you know. And something that is therapeutic for me, obviously, as an author, but even as an artist, is just writing, journaling. I think that's the thing that has hindered us. And then sometimes we're talked about, you know, I don't do stuff like that. That's not manly and stuff like that. But we have to get out of that stigma of feeling like mental health for men, specifically black men,
means you're weak. Or,
we need it so we can become the best versions of ourselves. And when we're the best version of ourselves, we can show up better in our families, for our children, and our community as a whole. But it starts, like you said, it really starts in the mind. It really starts in the mind. But you have to be intentional about doing things to create that space so you can breathe a little bit And then you can start tapping back into, like we were saying, being accountable, getting stuff done, but learning that everything is not priority as well. You know, just because something is urgent doesn't mean it's priority. So teaching them how to get out of that work, and even like being an entrepreneur, you can't just think work. No, you have to step back and look at a situation as a whole.
Absolutely.
To be able to create a system so the system can work and not you working.
Well said, man. What do you want to leave the audience with as it relates to perhaps calling you, purchasing your book, or even asking certain questions to their loved ones that are men or young men about, you know, what are they mental? I mean, I don't know. You don't want to ask them that, but sure, mental. The more, like, you know, asking them, like, hey, you good? What's going on with you? Or even coupling young men with young other men. And how important that is, because sometimes these women think that they are the only ones to raise a child, and it's
true. It's
somewhat backfiring a little bit. So can you speak to that real quick before we get out of here? It's a mouthful.
Yeah. I would say my question is always going to be, do you know who you are? Because if you don't know who you are, you don't know the authority, and you don't know the power that you have. And so many times we try to find our identity in relationships, in organizations, in education, even in your sexuality. All of these things we try to find our identity in, and we're in an identity crisis. And I feel like with our men, we need to take time to just figure out who we are first, and then we can start operating from that place of authority and power that we have from being a man, and more specifically being a son of God. And obviously I'm doing the coaching stuff, so you can go ahead and go to www.allthingsjv.com. But not only do I have the book and the study guide, I've also started a particular mentoring program for our men called the Brotherhood Academy.
Nice.
And then it's broken up into 4 quarters. The first quarter dealing with investment, like what are you willing to invest, time and money, obviously, but it's even more than that. And then the second one deals with your identity, like I just mentioned.
Right.
The third one deals with your calling, your purpose. Because now that you know who you are, now it's something that you need to do. Now that you know that, okay, what am I gifted at? What am I skilled to do? What areas should I be operating in to get the greatest result? Not just monetarily, but even eternally. You know, where's your intrinsic value, in a sense? Because you want to be fulfilled from the inside out, not the outside in. And then the last one is dealing with legacy. What are you leaving behind?
Right.
Not just monetarily, yes, of course.
Yeah,
but
more than just you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, when we think about like Kobe Bryant, when he left, one thing he really incited was that mama mentality, you know, not giving up, being persistent, like going the extra mile. So what legacy are you leaving when you're, you know, dead and gone? What do you want people to say? What do you want them to remember? What do you want them to hold and take with them? What's up, everyone? It's your boy JV. You can follow me on all social medias at All Things JV, ALLTHINGSJV as in Victor, on all social media platforms. Support your boy. You can get all of my books, my resources. I have a lot of training videos. I have mentoring programs, coaching calls. I'm all about the growth and the development. We got to get our men back in their rightful place. So tap in.
Well, Mr. Moore, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, so support them. This is Kevan Ware, Fresh Air Network Podcast Studio. Please support entrepreneurs and this brother. And if you have anybody that you feel needs to be touched in the male persuasion, young, old, 24 to 44 specifically, please look out for him and check him out. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.